Hello there and welcome. I'm Reverend Nhien, founder of Evolving Enneagram and the author of the Enneagram of the Soul, a 40-day spiritual companion for the 9 types. If you've been seeking a compassion-based, contemplative approach to Enneagram-informed transformation, you are certainly in the right place. This is where contemplation meets the Enneagram. We are now in week 10 of a 12-week Sunday talk series based on the theme 9 Points of Light. So we began this series in the body center at point 8. We move through the heart center, and today we arrive at the final point in the head center, point 7. The essence quality at point 7 is known as freedom. Not the egoic version of freedom, but this spacious, unconditioned freedom that is inherent in being, with a capital B, inherent in being itself. I'll take today in 2 parts. In part 1, we'll explore essential freedom, which is available within all of us, and also touch on the personality type 7's mimicry of that freedom. In part 2, we'll look at 9 invitations, of course, one for each Enneagram type, 9 invitations to savor the freedom that is always already here. And we'll do a 3-centered practice to close to help support us in tasting that freedom, in savoring that freedom. So let's begin. So part 1, essential freedom and its mimicry at point 7. So I'd like to open with a Buddhist parable about a young falcon named Fudo. I invite you to take a breath and just settle into this story. Fudo the falcon spent his life flying higher, faster, farther, believing freedom lived out there, just past the next ridge, just beyond the next horizon. But the more Fudo flew toward it, the more restless he became. One day, exhausted, he landed beside an old turtle named Shuhai. "Why do you fly so hard?" the turtle asked. "I'm searching for freedom," Fudo said enthusiastically. Shuhai nodded, then said, "Well, look up." Not outward, not ahead, just up. "The sky," he said, "is not something you must reach. It looks like it's up there, but it's right here. And it reflects your own unlimited nature. You don't have to chase the sky." In that moment of stillness, Fudo sensed a vast spaciousness inside himself, a freedom that had been here within him as him all along. Freedom, he realized, was never past the horizon, but freedom was the sky within him. So, what if true freedom cannot be found out there? External life, in fact, always includes limitation, doesn't it? We're limited by our physical bodies, our time, our resources. And so this outer life always includes this degree of not being free. And yet in seven energy, there's a pursuit of that. Well, maybe though, maybe. But what if we don't need this outer material or worldly freedom to be free? Because freedom is an essential state of being. And what if you're a type 7, this is especially true for you, that you have special access to this freedom. And that's a part of why you seek for it. It feels like home to you. But we leave home, you fly away to find that instead of staying. So let's explore this essence quality known as freedom, available to each and every one of us. And then we'll explore how the personality, feeling disconnected from this core quality, tries to manufacture the freedom externally. So, what is essential freedom? John Lukovich describes it as the recognition that essence is not conditional on anything else, nor determined by anything. It is fully and wholly what it is, unbound and completely free. This is not the freedom, again, of unlimited options. It is the freedom of being. Free because being itself is inherently free. In the diamond approach, the true quality, the essence quality at point 7 is referred to as the pleasure vehicle. And because this is kind of conceptually difficult to explain, I prefer the term freedom for the essence. But I want to capture some of the aspects that the founder of the diamond approach, Hamid Ali, has described as being essential, the essence quality at point 7, this quality that is inherent in being and not in outer circumstance. Essential freedom has the quality or shows up as a spacious luminosity, an effortless joy, clarity and creativity, profound trust in being, willingness to be with life as it is, and a kind of innocence that perceives wonder everywhere. Freedom here is not escape, it is immediacy. A.H. Almas, again, the pen name for Hamid Ali, writes, "True unadulterated pleasure is a quality of our own being. We just need to be ourselves freely in a carefree way. If we turn inward deeply, ecstatic pleasure will naturally be there. This bliss is experienced as the effect of authenticity, the actual feel of reality. Even when it comes as a response to enjoying something external, we are actually feeling inner joy or pleasure because the attainment of that external thing has quieted our mind and settled our heart enough for the inner delight to manifest. But that inner delight is short-lived when it is not recognized for what it is. If it is known as an emotional feeling resulting from external circumstances rather than the direct experience of being. This is the heart of the seven's longing, not for stimulation, but for the inner delight of being. When we're touched by essential freedom, we feel energized but not scattered, joyful but not bypassing, open but not fleeing, and curious without avoiding pain. This is essence, not personality. And yet, as our contact with this essential freedom fades, the personality, and in particular, this becomes the agenda of the personality of type 7s, tries desperately to recreate it. So instead of spaciousness, we get speed. Instead of joy, we get anticipation. Instead of openness, we get avoidance. And sevens mimic freedom through reframing pain into something positive, avoiding limitation or discomfort, compulsive planning, or again, anticipating. It's not concrete plans all the time. Not all sevens are into that at all. Chasing options, seeking stimulation, idealizing possibilities, and avoiding depth when it feels constricting. Almas again writes, the seven's fixation pushes the mind toward possibility and planning in order to avoid the suffering inherent in ordinary human experience. And as I write in my book, The Enneagram of the Soul, those who identify as seven are born with quick wits and highly charged nervous systems that seek constant excitement, variety, and stimulation, jumping from one entertaining idea or experience to another like a rock skipping over the surface of water. So, left unaccompanied, this momentum hides a deeper fear, as I continue in my book. They struggle to stay in the present moment and make space for difficult feelings, fearing they'll stay stuck in any negative emotion they allow themselves to feel. Can you feel compassion for that fear, for that resistance? Imagine, especially in sevens, if you really sink into it, it's terrifying. And so just my heart goes with you, sevens, as you cultivate this capacity to stay, right? And compassion for this strategy based on this fear, the strategy to really learn to anticipate instead, to plan, to reframe, to seek the next exciting thing. As I further write in my book, disconnected from this knowing, sevens compensate by adopting an enthusiastic, scheming mentality of, I'll make sure it happens, meaning I'll make sure the good happens. Right? This is the mimicry. This is the substitute for spiritual, like faith. This is the way that sevens believe that freedom or joy or good must be manufactured. Almas puts it this way: the ego of point seven avoids the now by racing ahead of it. This is the false freedom, freedom as escape, not freedom as being. So beneath all the brightness, many sevens then end up quietly confessing or admitting to me, I hear this. They confess to a loneliness that almost no one sees. It's not because they're shallow, but because stopping feels like it might drop them into a void that they cannot bear. But what if true freedom is actually the freedom to stay, to be in presence? So I'd like to invite you whether or not you identify as a type 7, to kind of sense into this energy or the themes of sevenness in your being. I invite you to consider these reflection questions, allowing them to land gently in your body. And as usual, please pause the video if you want to stay longer with any of these. Number 1, can you sense the difference between possibility and spaciousness? It's subtle. What happens in your body when you feel limited? Is it tightening, speeding up, numbing? Take a moment to notice. When have you used optimism to avoid truth? Can you recall a moment when staying with discomfort opened something deeper? You might want to journal this one. And finally, when joy arises, is it grounded in savoring presence or in anticipation? Notice joy as presence rather than anticipation. Without being connected to our essential freedom, we cannot stay with difficulty, metabolize disappointment. We cannot rest, commit in any true way, in any depthful way. We cannot savor. We cannot be intimate with our own hearts, much less with others. As Almas writes, the freedom of point 7 is the dynamism of being itself. Fresh, creative, and never stagnant. So freedom is not choosing whatever we want, but rather liberation from the compulsion to escape. As I write in the Enneagram of the Soul, at their best, 7s are radiant demonstrations of awakened joy. Joy that is not about distraction, but about full presence. Centered in their wholeness, 7s are profoundly, just naturally grateful and deeply committed, emotionally available. They're grounded, but they're playful, and they bring that as a gift to all of us. And they're very, creative, joyful in an embodied way. And again, from the Enneagram of the Soul, as 7s begin to wake up, they sense their unlimited place in the natural progression of life, trusting that their joy is an integral, spontaneous part of that unfolding. They experience the virtue known as sobriety, which enables them to savor the fullness of the present moment without the need for diversions or exciting secondary plans. Soulful 7s become present to the whole spectrum of human life, including the full range of negative and positive feelings. Centered in their wholeness, 7s assimilate experiences in greater depth with their hearts as well as their minds, while sharing their awe, enthusiasm, and appreciation for all the wonders of life in the here and now, a gift that bubbles over to us all. So this awakening allows the seven to stay long enough to be nourished by life. Staying is not stagnation. Staying is a way we savor this gift of life that we've been bestowed. And this is the grounded joy again at point seven, presence that sparkles with depth. On a personal note, I'll just say rather quickly that over the years, I've had a complicated relationship with the seven energy. And as I understand it, when we have judgments about something that's arising in someone else, there's a part of us that hasn't claimed it. I've talked about the shadow in our talk about point four, right? And so I could see how my sense of over responsibility, of dutifully staying and helping with things when that part of me wants to play and do something else. Of course, I'm going to be resentful when someone else actually does that. Just like, hey, like, why aren't they staying and helping with the rest of us? And for me, the healing has come from really honoring that within myself, I have that choice, right? And again, freedom, feeling this expansiveness allows me to choose consciously, not to just default to what my ego ideal says is better, which is, oh, we stay and we are always compulsively, perhaps, responsible. So the seven energy has gifted me with that. And then learning about the terror and the pain of staying, which is something that I don't have as much of, but I do. I can connect with that. I can connect with times when I have felt that, whoa, commitment feels like, oh, what am I going to miss out on? Or what will it mean if I stay here and depend on this person or this circumstance to somehow give me the good, right? And so that has really deepened my compassion and my ability to in some ways stay with the truth of my experience that allows my experience to open so that even when I intentionally still stay, I stay without the resentment. I stay with an openness and a sense of freedom. And it's with that that I want to invite all of us now, irrespective of our core type, to enter into part two now, into a contemplative look at how you might have within your number a barrier to really sensing freedom within yourself, which is the prerequisite, of course, for living and acting from this authentic inner freedom. So, part two, a contemplative journey. So, I'd like to begin by inviting you to consider around the circle of the Enneagram here what barrier your egoic structure might have to experiencing freedom as a quality of being. So I'll start with the barrier and then the invitation by type. For type 8, the barrier is bracing and then pushing for autonomy. The invitation is to settle into the freedom that doesn't need to be seized, only allowed. For the 9, the barriers, drifting or numbing to avoid intensity. The invitation is to awaken into the freedom of your full embodied like aliveness. For the type 1, the barrier is contracting around standards and mistakes. The invitation is to soften into the freedom of being messy, perfectly human. For type 2, the barriers reaching outward before returning inward. And the invitation is to rest in the vast freedom of being connected to yourself, in particular to your own heart. For type 3, the barrier is tying your worth to accomplishment. The invitation is to relax into the freedom that lies beyond the compulsion to produce. For type 4, the barrier is amplifying emotion or withdrawing into longing. The invitation is to open to the quiet freedom of being yourself without story or adornment. Type 5, the barrier is guarding your inner space with walls of thoughts. The invitation is to rest into the freedom of becoming transparent to life, open and connected. Ooh. Type 6, the barrier is tightening around imagined futures that you want to avoid. And the invitation is to settle into the playfulness and freedom of this moment, supported, grounded here. And finally, type 7. The barrier is scanning the horizon to avoid limits or discomfort. The invitation is to draw your attention back here, now, and savor the freedom already present within you. And finally, type. So let us take this into a three-centered brief practice. Russ Hudson teaches that when our body lands and our heart softens, the head center opens. And this can feel like a softening of the crown, a spaciousness above the head, or even a sense that the top of my head is gone, mind blown. And he calls this the spontaneous arising of each moment, the creative edge of reality that is experienced, where again, freedom is not escape, but this immediacy. And so, directness, immediacy, right here and now, I invite you to close your eyes and drop feeling into your weight. Sense the support beneath you. Perhaps it's the floor or the chair. And take a few breaths here. And silently to yourself, you might say, I am here. This is grounded freedom. And then I invite you to place a hand on your heart and allow for tenderness to emerge. And silently, you might say to yourself, I am free to feel. You're not being selective here. You're not constricting around certain feelings, but giving yourself freedom to feel all the feelings, the spectrum of your human experience. And then finally, I invite you to sense into the crown of your head and how there's openness there when you pay attention. Let a sense of you as sky widen. You are the sky. And then silently to yourself, you might affirm, I am free to be with this moment. I am the sky. I am freedom. In closing, I invite you to really consider this week freedom in a different way, not necessarily conditioned on outer circumstances. It's not the absence of limits, but the presence of you and the spaciousness inherent in that presence that lets you meet life as it is, allowing the inherent blissfulness of being to overtake you. When I was young, as some of you know, since I was 10, I collected quotes and poetry. And this week, reflecting on sevens, I was reminded of this one that I had in my collection, I think it like in high school, by Richard Lovelace. He writes, stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. Mind's innocent and quiet take that for a hermitage. If I have freedom in my love and in my soul am free, angels alone that soar above enjoy such liberty. As with all essence qualities, we seek outward what is already within. So this week, remember Fudo, the falcon. You don't have to chase the sky. Freedom is the sky within you. Namaste.